Alan Rowland again, and I want to continue with the short presentations about some of the early leaders of Walker County and Jasper, Alabama. And the individual I wish to discuss today is one of the Walker County leaders, and would later be one of the most wealthy individuals in Walker County in the 19th century. That individual I'm talking about is none other than Benjamin Mcfarland Long. So let's go through the discussion here about him, and we can see the birth date here. That he was born in 1827, Carrollton, Georgia, and he died on the 17th of June, 1903, buried in Mount Carmel Cemetery in Cordova, Alabama. I'll show you a photograph of that in just a little bit. His parents were John and Nancy Davis. I think I've heard that name before. John and Nancy Davis Long. They were from Granger County, Tennessee. They moved to Carrollton, Georgia in 1826. Their ancestry was from Northern Ireland, Belfast, Ireland. If you're not familiar with the way Ireland is organized actually into two parts. We have Northern Ireland, and the capital city, or the largest city in Northern Ireland, is Belfast. And if you go to the southern part, which is called the Republic of Ireland, the major city there is called Dublin. And for not at this time, but a little bit later anyway, Benjamin Mcfarland Long would marry Amanda Caroline Wooten. This was in 1854. It would be after he came to Walker County. And here we can see what the couple looked like. Obviously, I don't need to point this out to you. You can tell Benjamin and you can tell Amanda, who is to his left anyway. And anyway, for Benjamin Long, he lived in Carrollton, Georgia until the Mexican War started. And when he joined the United States Army, he served under Zachary Taylor, who was also known as Old Rough and Ready, and would later be a President of the United States. Zachary Taylor was a Whig, incidentally. And by the way, he also served under Major Robert E. Lee, later Lieutenant Colonel Robert E. Lee. After the war, Colonel Robert E. Lee, and of course, during the Civil War, he was General Robert E. Lee. Now, the Mexican War, if you're not familiar with this, the Mexican War, some people refer to it as Mr. Polk's War, but the Mexican War started in 1846. It would last till 1848. And Mr. Polk caused a lot of controversy over this. Many people to this day felt like that Polk was wrong, in instigating this war, and there's no question about it. The United States, we did instigate this. We did start that. But as a result of it, we acquired undisputed claim to Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California, Utah, Nevada, all of those areas there too. So that was one of the benefits that came out of this. We took this from Mexico. There's no question about it. Some people refer to this war as the Mexican-American War. All right, so back to our camera we go here. And, of course, Benjamin Long served in that war, and I'll tell you where he was stationed at a later time, and in just a few minutes, as a matter of fact. And after the war, Benjamin Long, he moved to Walker County, Alabama, and I'm sure that's where he married his wife, Amanda. He became a businessman, and a wealthy businessman, not quite at that time. He gained his wealth later. And he established himself in a place which was known as Dent. Some people refer to it as Dent's Place. This is where Cordova is today. And for Benjamin Mcfarland Long, he changed the name of the town to Dent and changed it to Cordova. If you look at the name Cordova, that's the name of a city in Mexico, the name of a city that is in Spain. And so he named that city of Dent. He changed the name over to Cordova. He had been stationed in the Mexican city of Cordova during the Mexican War, and he liked the city, All right, so at this time, Benjamin Long became a Whig. And he was opposed to secession. If you're not familiar with that term, secession, quite simply put, it means that secession means that you want to separate from the United States. And he was opposed to that. He felt like that the South should stay a part of the United States of America at first. But nonetheless, when the Civil War did break out, he helped organize Company I, that's Company I of the 50th Alabama Infantry. And thus he became known as Captain Benjamin Long. Now, it's good luck with this if you want to research this. I was unsuccessful in finding out how long he served with Company I. Personally, I think he served only to recruit this company. I don't know if he served in combat very long. If you figure his age up at that time, he was almost 40 years of age. But anyway, so I don't know of his involvement much after that. Okay, we'll talk more about 50th Alabama in another presentation. All right, so after this war, and I'm talking about after the Civil War, Benjamin Mcfarland Long returned to Cordova. Here's where he gained his wealth at that time. He purchased much of the area in and around Cordova. He donated land to establish the Indian Head Mills. This was a rather large factory. It was a cotton gin factory, a fabric textile type factory. Established this in 1898. It is in ruins today, but if you want to go to Cordova, you can see where it once was. And if I get the time to do so, I'll try to make a presentation on Indian Head Mills. And as we'll find with many of the politicians at that time, they will change from being a Whig and change it to being a Republican, because the Whig Party had disappeared, and out of this, disgruntled Democrats and Whigs formed a Republican Party around 1854, 1855. Abraham Lincoln did the very same thing here. He was a Whig, had changed to Republican. And so he became a part of the 1865 Constitutional Convention. And unless you're real familiar with this, you might think, well, why in the world would we have a Constitutional Convention? I thought we already had a United States Constitution. You got to remember, when those 13 states, left the United States, and not all of them succeeded, but when the South succeeded from the North here, they gave up their constitutional rights. So to be admitted back into the United States, they had to readdress constitutions, make new constitutions. And so what we had in Alabama in 1865 was a constitutional convention, and he was part of that. He later became a representative. This is an Alabama legislature, Alabama representative, and the Alabama legislature from 1880 to 1881, he was the only Republican legislator. And this is a real oddity, because in the South at this time, during and after the Civil War, virtually everyone was Democrat. Very few Republicans were found there unless they came from the North. And there's a certain name for that, which I won't give to you. Anyway, and so he ran also unsuccessfully for the position of governor of Alabama in 1890, and also unsuccessfully as a U.S. congressman in 1894. All right, now the children of Benjamin and Amanda Long, and they had 11 children, and so it's quite a list here. Henry Whitworth Long, John Benjamin Long. I've talked about him in a previous presentation. He had married into the Musgrove family, and you'll find there's a big connection here between the Longs, the Freemans, the Musgroves. They all, the three families just all intermarry, and that's kind of an interesting part of Jasper and Walker County history. Continuing with this, Carrie Gertrude Long, we had Thomas Leeper Long, Robert Wooten Long. These are all children of Benjamin Mcfarland Long, Ida Long, Lou Long, Ada Clare Long, Pope Mcfarland Long. I'll show you a photograph of his grave in just a few minutes. Jesse Orville Long, Edgar William Long, and it's just a lot of children. Now, one photograph I failed to show to you a few minutes ago, when Benjamin Long established himself in Cordova, he and his wife had this house built. This is the old Long house. And if you go to Cordova today, you can't miss it. Beautiful, beautiful house up on the hill there above Cordova. Cordova, of course, which was largely destroyed in the downtown area in the tornado that passed through. And I think it was in 2011 anyway. But that house is private residence today. If you go just a little bit on the outskirts of town, you can find Mount Carmel Cemetery. I think there's like over 1,000 burials in that cemetery. Nice cemetery. You can prowl around in there if you wish to do so. Here's the burial site here, showing you the burial site of, let's see here. This is Benjamin over on this side, Benjamin Mcfarland, and his wife, Amanda Caroline Wooten, who is over on this side. I'm going to show you a close-up of the headstone right here, the grave monument. And here it is here, showing you the two individuals here. And if you notice here on this one here, this is for Captain Benjamin Mcfarland Long. He was a Mason. There's a Mason giving you the dates of his life. And here's his wife over there on this side. And right close by, you can find one of their children. I hear a lot of people in Jasper, Walker County, talk about Pope Long. And here he is right here. And this is not very far from where his father and his mother are buried there. All right, so anyway, that's our presentation here on the Long family from Cordova. It's an interesting story there. Hope you take the time to drive down to Cordova, see where the Long house is and go out to Mount Carmel Cemetery and see if you can identify where the burial sites are. All righty, I have some other presentations here on some of the early founders of Walker County and Jasper. But anyway, thank you for your attention today.